Welcome everyone to the Dr. Todd Talks Tune Show. I'm your host, Dr. Todd Samra, and this week our subject is Ella Fitzgerald, and in particular, the Songbook collections that she did in collaboration with other musicians. Ella Fitzgerald, she's one of my all-time great heroes, actually. She's, I think, one of the greatest musicians ever to live. We can judge musicians, based on their ability to play notes quickly and accurately and all these wonderful things. But one of the things that we use to judge musicians is musicianship, their ability to communicate their passion, their depth of knowledge about something, their understanding about musical relationships, their musicianship. That can be a hard thing to define. And one of the things I love about Ella Fitzgerald is she's just an amazing musician with tremendous amounts of musicianship. So in profiling a performer of music, we want to select people that are the very, very, very best, and I believe that she is among the best. Of course, Ella Jane Fitzgerald, she was born in 1917 and died in June of 1996. I was right in the middle of my graduate degree and was taking a course at that time on the history of jazz and rock. And so it was, tragic timing, but it definitely deepened my appreciation for what I learned in that course about her in particular. She had a rough childhood, but she eventually joined Webb and the Webb Orchestra and became famous. As a matter of fact, they both kind of made each other famous. That recording of A Tisket a Tasket kind of launched both of their careers. She had a very long career. She gave her last performance in 1993 after 60 years of performing. She died at the age of 79, and her accolades include 14 Grammy Awards, the National Medal of Arts, and the Presidential Medal of Freedom. What we're going to talk about today, really, there's so many recordings that we have to narrow it down a little bit. So what we're going to look at today come from the Songbook collections. And she has a great number of these Songbook collections. Harold Arlen, Cole Porter, Irving Berlin, some tremendous collections. But there's two of them that I want to focus on today because of our time. We only have so much time. And those are the 3 album sets. And there was one she did with George Gershwin. Actually, it was with Nelson Riddle, but the music of George Gershwin. And then the one that she did with Duke Ellington, which of course she did with Duke Ellington. He created these new arrangements of his music, specifically in this collaboration with her. So the 2 3-album sets, the Duke Ellington and the George Gershwin, are our focus today. Of course, George Gershwin, great American composer. We know him from Rhapsody in Blue and An American in Paris and all these things. He was born in September of 1898 and died in July of 1937. A very short life. American composer and pianist, and of course wrote a lot of musicals in collaboration with his brother Ira, and created a tremendous body of music literature, a lot of music. Kind of like, I don't want to call him the Mozart of the early 20th century, but in a number of ways he was very prolific in the same way that Mozart was. So in Ella's collection, she collaborated with Nelson Riddle, which is a tremendous thing to do because Nelson worked very closely with Frank Sinatra, and Frank Sinatra was very protective of Nelson Riddle and who else was allowed to work with Nelson, because Nelson wrote the best arrangements, and so Frank wanted the best. So when he did this collaboration with Ella Fitzgerald to do the Songbook collection, they really produced some fantastic recordings. And the 2 I want to point out from the first album begin with Swonderful, and I'm going to move it up here to about a minute, and we're going to listen to a little bit of Swonderful and how clever of a song this is, especially in terms of the words. But just listen to her expression and musicianship on this one. Okay, here we go. And if you notice, the arrangement, the music the orchestra really gets out of the way, and that the trumpets are playing with mutes, kind of with the counter melody going on there. Is his ability to orchestrate the music around Ella is really what makes this such a tremendous collaboration. Let's listen to a little bit of Someone to Watch Over Me. How orchestral this is, the use of strings, and in particular, listen to the use of horn, French horn. So the horn, let me forward it up here a little bit. The horn traditionally is a convention in orchestra that represents longing or a yearning, desire, or love, or really kind of all of the above. The tradition of the horn related to the catch or the chase, and so we very often see in classical music the use of the horn this way. It's difficult to hear here on my low quality computer speaker. Here we go. There's real subtle horns there in the background. And you know, really the art of accompanying, whether it's on a piano or with a chamber ensemble or an orchestra, is really to get information out of the way that supports the melody or the singer or the instrument that you're featuring. And so I think his ability, Nelson Riddle's ability to really orchestrate this music so perfectly around Ella's voice and using the meaning of the words to help fill out what he does in the orchestra is just, he's the all-time great, you know, Nelson Riddle. I've Got a Crush on You. Same thing. You hardly hear the orchestra here. Really, the art of arranging really is more to do with what you're not saying than what you're actually saying. It's like if you try to say a lot musically, it's a lot to digest. Really kind of saying less is more, and it's part of that craftsmanship. Okay, I'm going to play a little Embraceable You, one of my favorite Gershwin tunes. That's all Nelson creating this introduction to this Gershwin song. That's part of what makes this his arrangement. It's intimate, and I think that's why these records are so cherished by so many people. They're so intimate. They're so wonderful to listen to. So to flip over to the Duke Ellington, let's listen to a little bit of Take the A Train, which he wrote in collaboration with Billy Strayhorn. Okay, part of the reason I want to mention this recording is what we heard right there. Such a tremendous departure stylistically from what we heard in the Gershwin. One of the things that Ella was able to do that many other singers were not able to do was to make the transition into bebop, into this more difficult, sophisticated, musically much more difficult style of jazz. Mel Torme really is another singer that was able to make that transition over into bebop quite effectively. What it really represents for a singer is virtuosity, the ability to sing really complicated, sophisticated, tight, challenging passages of notes. And so she's able to make that transition. And of course, these arrangements are with Duke. Don't get around much anymore. So we still get some of that intimacy in this collection. And here we have. So it's a very varied and diverse program. I got it bad and that ain't good, what I opened with today. Okay, we have to forward a little bit here because I want to get through the introduction and just kind of get to, okay, here we go. Here we go. Almost like a violin. Her voice is like a violin. And the way she scoops and slides and moves around, her voice very much is, I think, emulating the shape and character of stringed instruments. We look at Billie Holiday, and we can look at how Billie Holiday's voice is very much like Louis' trumpet. Stylistically, she's doing a lot of the same things that she heard Louis do in his trumpet playing, and use that in her voice. So we kind of see that with Ella, where Ella very much is that richness and that warmth and that character, but yet the virtuosic nature of like a stringed instrument. And that's why I think she's one of the most tremendous performers of all time. And if you want to learn more about Ella, there's some great websites available that you can go to that can teach you a lot about her life and expose you to a lot of her music. But I want to encourage everyone to start by delving into those recordings, the songbook recordings, and taking each composer one at a time and looking at these collections of some of their greatest songs. And of course, these arrangements are some of the greatest arrangements of these greatest songs, sung by one of the greatest, most awesome women ever to have lived. Next week, we're going to look at the music of Johann Sebastian Bach. A little bit of a departure, but it's episode 14, and that has great meaning. And for me, it has great meaning because I did a lot of research on my master's degree on this particular subject. We're going to be focusing on number symbolism in the works of J.S. Bach. So please tune in next week. I think it'll be a great show. Even if you don't know anything about Bach or numbers or anything, just kind of tune in. It should be fun. Thank you for tuning in today and joining us on Dr. Todd Talks Tunes.